of eternity means nothing, really. And actually, I know that we're all getting, I mean, not all of us, but, well, we are all getting older, but some of us are getting older than others. And as you get older, time starts to go faster and faster and faster. And you start to realize that our life is over so quickly. You know, I used to think that when I was younger that, oh, I have lots of time to live and enjoy and have fun and everything. And, you know, now I'm 60 years old and it's like, I've maybe got 20 good years left, maybe. You know, who knows? My father was very healthy, but he died when he was 70 years old. So, you know, and his father died when he was even younger than that. So I have a family history of, so, you know, 10 years from now I could be gone. Who knows? Maybe I could be gone tomorrow, you know, I mean, we all know that too. Anything can happen. But the point is that we have to come to the platform of pure devotional service very quickly. We should do our utmost to try to become pure devotees, because it's the only thing that that will completely satisfy the self. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the second chapter of the first canto, I can't remember the first line. Ahaitikya pratiyata yeyatma suprasiditi. Those are the two last lines of the verse. But the highest perfection of life is performing devotional service, and such service must be ahaitiki, unmotivated, and apratiyata, uninterrupted, yeyatma suprasiditi, to completely satisfy the self. So the self is always hankering. We're always hankering for so many different things. But to become completely satisfied, you know, it's just like if you get a new iPhone or something like that, you know, you think, oh boy, now I've got the best, you know, and everybody thinks, oh, now I'm happy, now I'm satisfied. But, you know, pretty soon it becomes old. You know, they're making technology nowadays so that, you know, a few months down the road, it's obsolete practically. So, but in order to completely satisfy the self, something, you know, when you will actually go, now I've got pure devotional service to Krishna, now I have Krishna, now I have everything, I am completely satisfied. I don't want anything else. That's it, yes, thank you. Savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhaktir hadoksaje ahaitikya pratiyata yeyatma suprasidati. Thank you. Yeah, it's so important to find that process that will completely satisfy us. Not a process that's only going to satisfy us for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or even 100 years. None of those processes will satisfy us. But the process of devotional service will completely satisfy us. And what is devotional service? Like what is it that we should do for Krishna? I mean, we come to the temple, tonight we're going to do light the lamp for Damodar, and we'll be doing Artik and also. So, I mean, these are active forms of devotional service as well. But we also have to look at, I talked a little bit about Lord Chaitanya coming in the age of Kali Yuga, and when he came, what was his purpose? His purpose was to actually try to get everybody to chant the holy name, to have their consciousness, Chaitodarpana Marjanam, Marjanam means cleaned, to have their consciousness cleaned by the holy name. And when you have your consciousness cleaned by the holy name, you get rid of all that material desire, everything else, and then you really do begin to develop that love for Krishna. So Lord Chaitanya came to give that to everybody. So really what we need to do is we have to take up that process of giving Krishna to others in whatever way you can. We give prasadam to others, we give books to others, we talk to others about Krishna, we go out on Harinam. You know, those are the best processes of devotional service in this age. You know, deity worship was actually a process in the last yuga, in Dwapara Yuga. But Harinam Sankirtan is the Yuga Dharma. And that's the one that we are supposed to do in this Dharma. So, and it doesn't mean just coming together and having Sankirtan here in this little box. But it means, going out on the street and engaging people and giving Krishna to others. That's when I guarantee you, anyone, that if you take a book or you take the holy name and you go and you chant and you give it to others, guaranteed you will understand what it really means in the Chaitanya Charitamrita when it says that when you break open the storehouse of love of God and you distribute its contents, that they actually become, the storehouse becomes more full. So that's what happens even with ourselves. When we give Krishna to others, our Krishna consciousness becomes more full. And we actually become more and more happy. And that's really one of the things that Prabhupada emphasized so much was book distribution. He really, really wanted it. And Gopal Krishna Maharaj must have been here and talked, and I know Gopal Krishna Maharaj always emphasizes book distribution. And we're coming up now to the sort of Christmas marathon time of year. And really, book distribution is important. And what it takes is, my wife and I, we live in Lindsay, but every few months actually, I buy a case of books, and I go out on Harinam with Dharma Prana in Toronto quite a bit, and I always have books with me, and we give out books on Harinam, but we always have books with us when we're out in Lindsay, and inevitably, Purnamasi is much better at it than I am, but she always talks to people about Krishna, and she gives people Krishna, and she gives people a book. And it's amazing when you see the people take the book and they're going, oh, thank you so much. And they really, people are dying for Krishna, literally. It's like, if people don't get Krishna in this life, then they'll just go samsara dava. They'll keep going in the samsara, the cycle of birth and death. They'll just grow old and die, grow old and die, grow old and die, grow old and die, life after life. But as soon as they get Krishna, the beginning of the end has happened. And they'll start to actually understand what it is to become Krishna conscious and get out of this material world. I mean, I'm sitting here today giving this talk. I'm serving you by giving this talk. I am definitely your servant, and I thank you for this opportunity to serve. And but you're looking at somebody who, the first time I saw devotees, I was a student at McGill University in 1971. And I was walking by the Kirtan party, and I saw the devotees chanting Hare Krishna, and I went, woo, great. I was one of those people, I mean, we see those people all the time when we're on Harinam, right? They go, oh, great. But I was one of those people, so, never get upset with any of those people, because they could end up being like me, becoming devotees. And we should see the possibilities in everybody, that these people, everybody has the opportunity to become Krishna conscious. And because I was definitely one of those. I was the crazy one, but I was thinking they were crazy.
Now you are crazy on Krishna.
Prabhupada, wrote a pamphlet like that, right? Like, who is crazy? And so who's the real crazy? But I was really crazy back then. But hopefully now I can become crazy for Krishna in a good way. So every one of us has the chance to give Krishna to others and to make people that are like myself into being, or that that are like myself used to be, into people like I am now. Every one of us can make that happen. So I implore you, all of you, to get some books. It's not hard, just go down to the temple. And if you have 20 or 30 or 40 extra dollars, or a case of like Chant and Be Happy, the one with George Harrison and everything. Yeah, so you've got some cases of books. Like a case of books, I think, is only about $80 or $100. It's really not very much, and there's quite a few books in there. So, and then you can always go out with one in your purse or one in your pocket, and if you just happen to be sitting beside somebody in the subway or or even standing beside somebody at a traffic light, and something happens and you just strike up a conversation, and somehow you can turn it towards Krishna, because Krishna's everywhere, right? So it's not hard to turn the conversation towards Krishna. And then you just say, oh, and here's a really wonderful book that explains a lot more about Krishna consciousness, and most people, and I'd like to give it to you. And of course, we want to give Krishna consciousness. So I always tell the devotees, even in the temple in Toronto, give the book. Give the book. Say, this book is yours. I always say that to the person, the book is yours. But if you want to give something, if you want to make an exchange, that I've given you something, then it'll be a more meaningful reciprocation. If you want to give something in return, give a donation, please. And a lot of people say, well, how much? And he said, just give from your heart. And it's amazing how some people say, well, honestly, I really don't have anything. And that's okay. If the person wants the book, I always say, look, if you're going to read it, take it. I don't care. If you're not going to read it, then sure, I'll pass it on to somebody else. But if you're going to read it, then take it. And then Krishna, the next time you give a book to somebody else, a lot of times for chant and be happy, which is like 80 cents or less worth of book, somebody will give $10. So Krishna covers everything, and then whatever you get, you try to keep that Lakshmi aside and give it to the temple, like that. Prabhupada said, there's that, I think you probably have seen it, the little yellow book, little hardcover book that really talks, Prabhupada, there's a whole bunch of letters and quotes from Srila Prabhupada about book distribution. And in one of those letters, Prabhupada says, if you are distributing my books, and if all you boys and girls are chanting 16 rounds, following the 4 regular principles and distributing my books, there will never be any problem with money. Ever. Because if that is the purpose of having an ISKCON Scarborough and an ISKCON, Prabhupada said these are bases, like army bases against Maya. We from here, this is where we come together, we fill ourselves with Krishna. Vaisheshika Prabhu often talks about that. You fill yourself with Krishna. You come here, you fill yourself with the nectar of Krishna, really understanding who Krishna is, all his different pastimes. You really the holy name. And then it makes you want to go out and give them to others. When you've got something good, you want to go and give it to others. It's just like, if I'm relating this to kind of the younger generation, but if you've got the latest cell phone or iPad or something, you're like, hey, look what I got, and it's the best. So really, when you have Krishna consciousness, it's the best, and there's nothing that can beat it. So if you take a book and you go, hey, I've got this, and it's the best. And it's not like we're trying to put down other religions, but what it is, just like I was saying before about Christianity, where Christ was also talking about bhakti. But Krishna consciousness is a more complete and full understanding of what bhakti is. As a Roman Catholic, I never really understood what bhakti was, and I could see that those who were real proponents of that level of bhakti we're still so much engaged in the material world, taking intoxication. Like a lot of the Jesuit priests I knew were actually, they would go home and they would drink liquor and beer and everything like that, and they would get intoxicated. And some of them would even, have affairs with women and stuff like that. I mean, it happens everywhere in the material world, and unfortunately even happens in Krishna consciousness sometimes. But I can see that in Krishna consciousness, there is a much higher level of devotion of most of the members. And I can see that that's the kind of devotion that I want to aim for. And I can see that Srila Prabhupada had that devotion perfectly. And I can see also that in the Parampara system, there were so many acharyas in our line that had that devotion perfectly, who actually saw Krishna face to face and were able to, because of that, strongly give Krishna consciousness to others. So we have to also come to that point of filling ourselves with Krishna, becoming strong in Krishna consciousness, so that we can then go out and give Krishna to others. And we should really, as a group, we should try to come together and say, what are we going to do this year to try to increase our our giving of Krishna to others, in whatever way it is. But we've got to make a plan. You know, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. You may have heard that. If you don't make a plan, then you're planning to fail. So we need to make a plan. So hopefully within the next week or two, everybody can come together and you can actually make a plan. But the plan's easy, really. Just get books and just, you know, go on Harinam or go with the devotees. I mean, the devotees you know, if you can combine with the devotees at the temple in Toronto, because they have a really nice program, especially on the Saturdays, all the way through the Christmas marathon. And if you go any day, that's great, because some of the devotees go out every day. But especially on the Saturdays, they have a really nice, you know, if you go to the morning program, and then they kind of go over, you know, what book distribution, how to distribute a book, and then everybody goes out, and some people just chant, you just go on Harinam, and some people just hand out lollipops, and some people hand out books. It's no pressure. It's like, we're not saying you have to go out there and distribute books, but at least going out there as Harinam, you're giving Krishna to somebody else. Like when you're singing the holy name on the street, and somebody across the street is walking by, and you may not even think that they even noticed, but the holy name entered their ears, and because the holy name entered their ears, their life is completely changed. Because what is the first process of devotional service? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So Shravanam, the hearing, is the first process of devotional service. So if they just hear, that means they've engaged in devotional service. And what does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita? That one who is on this path, there is no loss or diminution, and a little advancement, even a little advancement, saves one from the greatest fear. And what does Prabhupada say the greatest fear is in the material world, in that purport? He says it's falling back into lower species of life. So if one engages in even a little bit of devotional service, just hearing the holy name like that, every single person who walks by the Harinam party is guaranteed a human form of life in their next birth. That's how potent that is. Because they're, you know, most of the material world now, what are they engaged in? Meat eating, drunkenness, you know, all kinds of horrible activities. So they're going to very bad levels of existence in the hellish planets, or even on this planet. There's some pretty hellish conditions. But if they just hear the holy name, then they're saved from those hellish conditions.
Neha Vikarmana Swasti Pratyavana.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Neha Vikarmana Swasti. Very, yeah, so important that we get out there and give Krishna to others. That's how potent. And we have to really understand Krishna. You know, Janma Karma Chame Divyam. One who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and my activities does not take birth again in the material world. So we really have to understand that transcendental nature of Krishna and the transcendental nature of his activities. Like we see Krishna and Balaram up there with the cowherd boys. And, you know, wouldn't it be great to be one of those cowherd boys and to be, you know, and if we really understand Krishna, if we really get to know Krishna, if we really get to love Krishna, then we can actually walk right into that scene. We can go there and be there with Krishna. So it's available to all of us, but we have to take advantage of it. And then we have to give it out to others. And the more we give it to others, the more Krishna, actually, just after that, a little bit after the very some of the very last instructions that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that hang on a second. Just after Sarvadhanam Britya Ja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, for one who explains, okay, he says, Ya idam paramam guyam mad bhaktesh vabudasyati bhaktim mai param kritva mam evaishat yasam shaya. For one who explains this supreme secret to the devotees, pure devotional service is guaranteed, and at the end he will come back to me. So if you're going out and giving devotional service to others in the form of books or in the form of the holy name, and you're dedicating your life to that, and Krishna says your pure devotional service is guaranteed. So what else should we do? You know, really, we should dedicate our life. Prabhupada was the first book of the Prabhupada Leela is a lifetime in preparation. Prabhupada took a lifetime of preparation. And what was it for? He didn't just retire and say, oh, now I'm going to sit around in my apartment and do nothing. He said, no, I'm going to go to the West. I'm going to utilize all of my energy every day to give Krishna to others. And if it wasn't for Srila Prabhupada doing that, I wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be here, there wouldn't be an ISKCON Scarborough, there wouldn't be an ISKCON Toronto. None of that would exist. But because Srila Prabhupada took up that mission, then all of us are here and we're able to engage in devotional service and we're progressing on the path back home, back to Godhead. So that is a wonderful thing. So make your lives wonderful, make other people's lives wonderful, and then we can all be happy and go back home, back to Godhead. Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments? We'll only have a couple of minutes.
This, thank you, Prabhu, for a wonderful class. So in this particular verse that you read and explained, it explains about the 9 forms of devotional service and how eventually one can go back home, back to Godhead by following the 9 process of devotional services. In this age of Kali, as you also mentioned, that it's Yoga Dharma as Harinam Sankirtan. So in this day and age, all these 9 can be applicable, or it's hearing and chanting, the first 2 forms are more potent in this age of Kali, or it can be anything else that can be complemented with this, or it's a standalone, like hearing and chanting?
Oh, no, it's definitely all the processes of devotional service are there. But generally speaking, all of us are present here today because we first heard, right, from another devotee, or we heard from our parents, or we heard, in some way we're here because of hearing. So we're taking up devotional service, all the 9 processes, because we should actually go through the processes, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Sakyam, Atman, and take up, deity worship and worshiping the lotus feet, and eventually Atman Nivedanam, giving ourselves totally to Krishna. So all those things have to come to fruition. We should engage in all those processes in devotional service, but the beginning is definitely Shravanam and Kirtanam. So I don't know, I still consider myself, I've been a devotee for a lot of years, but I can still consider myself very neophyte in the process of devotional service. And so therefore, what is my role as a servant of Srila Prabhupada? It's just to hear from him and to give it to others. Simple, perfect. And Prabhupada said, better than talking to somebody about Krishna is giving them a book. Because, you talk to somebody and they may forget. But you give them a book, they'll take it home, they'll read it, and they'll begin to really imbibe the message and take up the message. I'll just tell you a quick story about Balakrishna Prabhu. He lives in Sharanagati near Vancouver. And he lives on there, and he was in the Ottawa Temple in 1974, and he was the one who first met me on the streets of Ottawa and at the university, and started telling me a lot about Krishna, and really encouraged me to start coming to the temple and everything else. So I owe a lot to, he's one of my Vartma Pradarshika gurus. And so he describes how one day, Sharanagati, I don't know if you know, but it's 4 hours drive from Vancouver. It's out in the central British Columbia, way out in the middle of nowhere. It's hard to find, even if you know where you're going. So, but one day, this couple and their children knocked on the door and said hello, and they was like yes, and they said, oh, is this, Sharanagati Farm, is this where, and I said yes, and they said, well, we had a book from many, many years ago, and it had been sitting on our bookshelf. We got it about 20 years ago, and it had been sitting on the bookshelf. And one day I was just cleaning up the house, and I pulled out this very nice looking book. It was a Srimad Bhagavatam Volume 1. And yeah, really nice. And she just said she started reading it. And soon she got her husband involved, and the whole family was chanting Hare Krishna. And so then they said, now we got to go somewhere. And they were living in northwestern United States. And they drove all the way from somewhere in Washington State, from there, about 6 hour, 7 hour drive up to Sharanagati to find somebody else who's also chanting Hare Krishna. So in this way, people, the books are like time bombs, Prabhupada often said. People will take them, hopefully they'll get them back into their house, put it in a bookshelf or something, but eventually it'll go off and the Krishna consciousness will come to fruition. Okay, I think we're time for it.
Thank you very much.
Grace Krsnadas Kaviraj prabhu ki.
Jai.
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine
Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvasesha Shunyavadi Bhakti-sarika Karine
Namaste Saraswati Devi
Hare
Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmansa Parvratikacharya Asatar Satashishmat Abhay Charnaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Brahmansa Parvratikacharya Asatar Satashishmat Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Jidandi Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
Ananda Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki
Jai.
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki
Jai.
Devji Goshi Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakunda Radha Kundigiri Govardhan Ki
Jai.
Vrindavanam Ki
Jai.
Radha Mayapur Dham Ki
Jai.
Gangamai Ki
Jai.
Jamunamai
Jai.
Ki Bhakti Devi Ki
Jai.
Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan Ki
Jai.
Transcendental Book Distribution Ki
Jai.
ISKCON Scarborough Ki
Jai.
Damodarastakam Ki
Jai.
Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki
Jai.
Gaur Premanandi.
Hari.
All glories to the Son of the Lord.
Hari.
All glories to the Son of the Lord.
Hari.
All glories to the Son of the Lord.
Hari.
All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
Shri Radha Gopi Vallabh Ki.
Jai.
Jai Prema Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Dala 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 विघ्नाश लक्ष्मी नृसिंह भगवान की जय, प्रहलाद महाराज की जय, आनंद बड़ी वैष्णव वृंद की जय, गौर प्रेमानंद।
On behalf of ISKCON Scarborough devotees, I'd like to welcome each one of you to this Friday evening program. Today is November 1st. We are halfway into this 2013 Kartik month. And I'm delighted to welcome His Grace Krsnadas Kaviraj prabhu to ISKCON Scarborough. So thank you, Prabhu, for giving us your wonderful association today. Prabhu was initiated by ISKCON founder Acharya A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in the year 1974. Prabhu and Mother Purnamasi both are disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So we're missing the association of Mother today, but hopefully next month and the following month, every month, once a month when you'll be coming here, you can bring Mother again.
And Prabhu is coming from all the way.
From Lindsay.
Well, actually, I was working in Toronto, so I'm on my way back to Lindsay.
Thank you, Prabhu. And Prabhu has been serving in the mission of Srila Prabhupada, at least that we know from 1974, but it could be even before 1974. Prabhu mentioned in 1971 he did this, but maybe between 1971 after he did that and 74, Prabhu was still serving. And Prabhu also acts in many of the Maharaj's wonderful plays as well. And of course, what we know of Prabhu is on a regular basis, if I'm not mistaken, on a weekly basis, Prabhu goes out on Harinam to downtown Toronto with Dharmaparan Prabhu and distributes the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which is the Yuga Dharma, and wonderful books are also distributed. Thank you again for your association, Prabhu. We hope to see you more often at ISKCON Scarborough.
And also Prabhu, one of the directors in ISKCON Toronto, yes.
ISKCON Toronto has been serving.
Not anymore.
Prajadhiraj Nandana Muda Bhugatra Chandana Nulepaganda Vahinim Bhavabdi Bija Dahinim Jagatraye Yashasvinim Satsuda Payasvinim Bhaje Kalinda Nandinim Durantamoha Panjinim Rasai Kasima Radhika Padabja Bhakti Sadikam Tadangaraga Pinjara Prabhati Punjamanjulam Swarochisha